Hey everybody, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a full bingo granny's ear for a Mickey ear headband from scratch. So I'm going to show you the whole process that in the end you will end up with a printable Mickey ear in two halves to sandwich the printable transparency in between these slots. So before I get started, I will go over the programs in a second, but as far as materials, you are going to need a printer, laser or inkjet, whatever works for you, and transparency paper to print this out on transparencies. Okay, so you are going to need that as far as the hardware transparency paper to print this out on, and you are going to need the following software, which I will tell you right in the beginning of the tutorial. So let's get started. Alright guys, so let's get ourselves started. The programs that I'm going to be using are mostly free. So we're going to be using Tinkercad, which you can sign up for free. We are going to use Thingiverse. We're going to use Convertio. And here's the not free one. We're going to be using Adobe Photoshop as well. Now there are different options like GIMP. That's a really big one. Procreate on your iPad, that's less. But if you are trying to knock out quite a few, you can sign yourself up for an Adobe trial and do 14 days and just knock out a bunch. Also, as you can find out in the description, I'm going to be sharing all of the ones that I create to share out with you. So let's get ourselves started. We are going to be using one of the most famous ones, I would say, the blank mouse ear made by Valorium 117 here. And this was put up into Thingiverse, and I will have the link in the description for you. Now I chose to use this one because I like the idea of the magnets and using the magnetic base just so I can switch them out easily, and so that's the one that I am going with. But you can use the same process to whatever other ear template you want, with whether it has magnets or not. So you're going to download that file that you need, and you're going to go into Tinkercad, tinkercad.com, and you are going to import your file in, and then it will show up, and this will all be the right dimensions for you. Okay, so Tinkercad, if you have not used this before, you will not have to do too much maneuvering, and I'll tell you what the actual buttons are that you will use for this. But on the side, these are basic shapes that you can use where you won't have to worry about these for this. And over in here, if you click on the object, it will say solid or whole. You're just going to keep them solid through this entire time. So if you see this show up, don't worry about it. Whole means, like if I took this box and I put it over here and I made it a hole, it would make a box shaped hole out of this other object when I group it. Okay, but you don't have to worry about that. So don't worry if that shows up, don't freak out, just ignore it. The only other thing that you're going to want to use is to maneuver it. You're going to click on this box, and that's how you can maneuver this in its space. Or if you want to see it from the top, which I suggest, just click on the top and it will take you straight hovering over top of it. Over here you can zoom in and zoom out, or you can drag up and down on your mouse pad, and this will take it to the flat view. Okay, so you don't have to worry about really any of these options all around here unless you're going to go further out. But just focus on this to maneuver, click and drag, or you can just click on the spot that you want it. I like mine kind of like, I'm just clicking and dragging over. I like mine kind of over to the side, so that way it kind of looks like the pattern where the ears are actually going to be on that headband. So I like to keep mine diagonal. All right, we need to figure out what we're going to do. And one of my daughter's favorite Bluey episodes is the Grannies. I think it's kind of a world famous favorite one. So I'm just going to click on Grannies and bingo. That's what I'm going to name this one. And I'm going to go over into Google, and I'm just going to click into the search and hit Grannies Bluey coloring page and narrow down. Now, some good tools for you if you are not a Google image searcher. So when you click that in, click on images and it will take you there. And one of the other good things that I suggest is going over into the tools and then clicking size and make it large. This way you get high quality ones, not just the little thumbnails that are put in. And then you can also go into color and click black and white, because that's what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be looking for the outline, black and white ones. So that will help you narrow down your search and see all the different options that you have. So I want to go over with this one. I love my grandma, so I'll click on this. And I'm just going to want the bingo piece. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to save as downloads, or you'll save it however your computer is. And then I'm going to now jump over into Photoshop. So I'm going to open mine up in Photoshop. So I'm going to click open, go into my downloads, and there it is. Now I'm only going to want this bingo piece. So I'm going to actually get my selector and I'm going to click and drag, make a box, and there you go. That's the one I want. So now I'm going to hit Control C or Command C if you have a Mac, and I'm going to go ahead and now go up to File, click on New, and it will be from Clipboard. That will have the size that I want. Hit Create, and now I can paste, and I have Bingo herself as a granny. A lot of times you're not going to have to worry about doing that step. So if you want, you can just keep searching and find where it's just Bingo herself if you want to skip on that step. Now I'm done with this and I have my Bingo. You'll see over here in Photoshop, once again, if you're not used to this software, just focus on what I'm telling you, because especially with Photoshop, it's a rabbit hole of lots of options. So you have two layers over here. You have the background layer, and then you have the layer 1, which is the picture that we added in. We can really just get rid of that background layer, so I'm just going to delete it. Yep. And now I just have the picture of Bluey here. All right, so let's zoom in a little on Bluey. Whoa! And if I keep calling her Bluey, I apologize. It is Bingo. So now what we need to do with this step is, with our 3D printers, you can only print such a thin line. If it gets too thin, then when you go to slice it, it's not going to appear. And that will give you some frustration, should we say. And it really took me a little bit to figure it out. So I'll show you the trick. You can't really see it on my screen, but on the top you're going to click on Filter, and then you're going to go down to Other, and then scroll over to Minimum. Now what this is going to do is it's going to look over all of your picture, and it's going to change all of your lines into a minimum. And what I would say is a minimum of 2 pixels. That seems to be the sweet spot, where it's just thick enough to get 2 lines in there for a pass that lets my 0.4 nozzle print it out. So I'm going to go over to 2. If you find that you still have that problem, you can bring yours up to a 3, and what you'll see is it makes it thicker. It does kind of get rid of a little bit of the look to it, so that's why 2 is the sweet spot for me. Once you have 2 in there, click OK, and now you're going to save this. So I'm going to File and Save, and I'm going to save it here. Let's go and just call this Bingo grannies. Save it as a ping, that's quite alright. Then hit save. If you want to save it as a JPEG, go for it. SVG, that's totally up to you as well. Now, what I have noticed is if I save an SVG out of Photoshop and I go to drop that into Tinkercad, it doesn't always work. So regardless of what you save it as, you're going to go to convertio.co. And when you go into convertio.co, you are going to be at a file conversion site. You're going to click on choose files, and you will click on your one that you just exported from Photoshop. Once you have that in, you're going to click on 2 and this little box next to it and choose SVG. And you'll see that right here out of the top. You can also search for it if you want. Once you confirm that you're going to SVG, you're going to click on convert. Give it a second. And now you can download it. Now just let that download go into your download folder and you can go back over to Tinkercad. Once you're in Tinkercad, you're going to click on import. Then you're going to choose your file, and here it is. And you can see, even in these pictures, see my thin one here? And here's my thick one. It's beautiful. So choose for upload. Now, these usually come in pretty big, so I scale mine down to 50 just to start. It makes it a little easier. And then I'm going to click import. Give it a second, and then it will show up. And there it is. So now I'm going to click on this, and just to help you out, I'm going to change the color of it just to make it a little easier for you to see the two different things. So let's go with a more bingo-y color. There we go. All right, so I have my ear in the background. You can see that that is super small compared to my bingo. So the first thing I'm going to do is start shrinking this down a little bit. I'm going to click the corners and bring it in. Now you can see that it's going wonky. So to lock that in, hold shift and it will keep the proportions. So I'm going to hold shift, going to get it just about where I want it. All right, right about there. And then I'm going to click on it and drag over. Now you can see it didn't work the first time. That's because it is small and you need to really make sure you click on a piece of that object there. All right, now I have it. It's about the right size and I'm going to zoom in. All right, that's a good distance there. Perfect. Now you'll see that there are a couple arrows here. You can see there's one hanging out there, one right there. You're going to want the one that's facing you. You're going to click on that and start spinning that thing around there until you get it to the spot where you want it. Now what I have found is that I like to have some of the outline overlap so that way it is in there and stuck onto the frame of the ear. It really holds it in. So I try to get it at least in 2 spots or more if able. Now I'm just going to fine tune this. Remember holding shift so it doesn't get all wonky on you. You can even move it by using the arrow keys if that makes it a little easier. And actually I think this is a nice spot right here. You can see the overlap. So right in here it is smushed in there. Right over here it's smushed in. And over here in quite a few spots, and especially over here, which was really important for me because that was free floating and you want to try to avoid the free floating as much as possible. For example, that eyeball is not attached to anything, so when you go to pull it off your plate, that thing is just going to be hanging out there, and the ears will come off. There's, you can take it as long as it didn't move off and you can glue it into its spot. It's not a big deal, but just try to keep as much attached as possible. And this little inside part you can see would not have been attached, but now that I shoved it into the ear, it is attached. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3 good sides of it all connected in. Just going to swing around just to make sure. Oh, there it is. It's kind of hanging out there. That's not good. So I'm going to want to get that in a little bit more. So I'll just shrink it down a little bit. So grab a hold, grab a corner, shrink it down just a little bit more. All right. I'm going to swing it around again. Still in there a little bit. All right, so maybe the next step is to go ahead and pull it over. There you go. All right, now everything's in. You see that floating spot? That's not in there, so I might just get rid of it later on. But as long as I keep this hole clear, I'm good. All right, so just do a quick spin around, make sure everything's good. Perfect. Now you're going to see that there's a difference in size. All right, this one is much taller, so this outline is much taller than the inside. So to fix that, I'm going to click on the image on the inside, the bingo. I'm going to click on the square in the middle, not that black one, but the square, and then I'm going to click and drag it up, and you'll see that it will bring it up to the top. This ear itself is 10 millimeters. I like to do mine right at 9. It just gives it a little space and it keeps the top end nice and clear. All right, so now you got to group them. So click on this, click on this. So you're clicking on the inside, clicking on the outside. So you have two shapes, and you'll click this button here, which groups them. Once you hit group, they will all turn the same color and be one piece. If you forget that, which I like demonstrated, will usually forget, when you go to export it, it will only export whatever image you are clicked on. So that's a nice way to be, if you run into that problem, that's what you did wrong. You just forgot to group it. All right, so now I have it grouped, it's named, I'm going to export it. Now, because this is the stained glass look, you're going to do two different exports. You're going to first do the STL, and then you're going to export the SVG. I know you're not laser cutting, but you'll see. All right, so I lied to you. There was one more program that I do use, and that one is also free. I use the Prussia Slicer. So I'm going to open up my file, not in Google Chrome. That should open it. I click the SVG. All right, here we go. Click the STL. So I'm going to open that up. And once I open this up, you'll see that the bingo there is ready. But to make it into that stained glass, what I want to do is sandwich this stained glass picture right in the center. So to do that, I'm going to get into my file and I'm going over to this button, which is the cut. And what that will do is slice it right in half. Since this is 10 high, I'm going to put it right at 5 millimeters. So Z, the height, at 5 millimeters, keeping the upper, keeping the lower part. And then I'm going to click Perform Cut. Once I do that, it slices into two pieces. So I'm going to take those two pieces. I'm going to click off on the side. I'm going to click on one of them. I'm going to drag it over. Click on the other one and drag it over this way. And there you go. It is ready to print. Now, if you want to do a check to see what to see if there's any free floating or get rid of any of those, what you do is this. So you will click on Slice Now, and it will process. And right there you can see if anything is missing, but since we thickened those lines, all of the lines are perfect. To see what is free floating, you are just going to click on, let me click back. You are going to click on one, and I will click on P to split into parts. And then over here, P to split into parts. And now you will see that there are multiple parts here. So if I click on this one, there's that inside, and I just want to get rid of it. So going to click, hit delete. And I still think that looks good, right? You can still tell it's a claw. So I will delete that one. I'll do it for this one too. So number 2, delete. All right, let's check out number 3. That's the eyeball. You know what? I'm going to leave it there because usually mine prints all right. But if yours doesn't print for some reason, just take it out, and you can do it by just clicking it and hitting delete. You know what? I'll delete it just for you to help you out. Go over to 3 here. Ooh, look at that little guy in there. All right, let's get rid of that. That's not needed. That would be an awful print there. Get rid of that eyeball too, because you'll see it will print out in the other way. And then, whoa, and then go to number 4 here, that little thing there. Click delete. And now these are ready. And you'll see that eyeball is missing, but when we go to print it out with the stained glass, it will be a nice black spot there. So it will still have the appearance of something dark. So I'm going to hit slice now. Everything will be nice. There's no free floating. Everything's connected. And the next step, if I just want to have the plate like this for my file, I'm going to go up into File for my Prusa slicer and export the plate as STL. And once I do that, when I go to open the file, it will look just like this. I don't have to do the splitting. I don't have to do any of the others. And this is how you're going to find my files as well. All right, now that is done. You can export it and print it, and you are good to go. Okay, so that's what you need to do for the actual 3D printing. Now let's talk about the stained glass part. So that stained glass component here was when you exported it with the SVG, which we already did. So I'm going to go ahead and let's close out of this, because now I want that SVG which has the whole ear. So I'm going to open up that file here, SVG, and I keep doing that here. All right. Open up that file, and now it looks like this, which is a little scary, right? All right, so you're going to go into the magic wand tool, going to turn contiguous off if it isn't off already, and pick something up in this top corner which is empty. You're going to click on it, and all of a sudden the marching ants are showing you the design, and yes, the term actually is marching ants. So now I have my design here. I'm going to hold Control Shift and I to select the inverse, or you can hit Command Shift I if you have a Mac. Then you are going to go into your paintbrush, get a nice size paintbrush, all right, and then start painting it black. And everything you really have done so far looks like nothing. And that's because for the laser cutter, it's the thinnest line you could imagine. But we already did just enough. And you can see if you click on this boundary box tool, click over to the side, there it is, that beautiful line there. All right, so I'm going to now click on my magic wand, click contiguous back on, which means that everything just has to connect. And I'm going to click right in the ear outline, and that should select almost everything but the free floating things. So now I'm going to hold Shift so I add it, and you can see a little addition pop up next to that brush. I'll go over to the eye, give that a click. The next one that we found was in the handle, give that a click. And over here, this weird little piece in here, give that a click as well. So I have all my things clicked in. Going to zoom back out a little bit and now paint them black. So I clicked on the paintbrush and went over it nice and black. Go back to the boundary box, click, and there you go. Now this is a fun part where you get to start coloring it. So what I like to do, because I can be a little OCD here, I'm going to go into Granny's Bluey and get rid of that part. And then when I search, now I get the actual colors because like I said, I'm a little OCD. So I'm going to go into my tools. I'm going to click on the size, make it large so that way all the best ones are right here. Let's find a good one that has all the colors, easy to see. All right. I don't see anything down there, so let's go back up here. It looks like this one because, ooh, right there. She has her thing. I'm going to right click on this, and this time I'm going to hit copy image. Then I'm going to go over in, and I'm going to hit Control V to paste, and now you'll see that image is in there. Came out a little huge, so I'm just going to resize it by grabbing into the corners. Shrink it down so it's just big enough but out of the way. I only need Bluey there, or sorry, Bingo. So I'm actually going to try to shrink it down and get rid of the rest around her. Making sure I'm in layer 2. And this is just so I don't have all the other stuff in my way. Whoops. All right. All right. So you see what I did there? Just to try to clean up this space a little bit. Now I'll go back to my moving tool and I'll move it up over here where all the pieces are and it's not in my way. Now right over here you're going to click on the actual box, and what that will do is bring you to the color selection tool. And if you go off to the side, you'll see it turns into an eyedropper. So I can click right here, ding, and now I have the perfect shade of purple. So I'll click OK, and now everything that is purple I will select. Remember the trick? Oh, sorry, layer 1. Make sure it's contiguous. Click on, hold Shift to add. So now I'm holding Shift, clicking that little space in there, clicking this space over here, and now this whole outside is purple. I'll go to my brush and swipe of the brush, and now I am done. Let's go to the next color. So I'm going to click on this box again, go over to the light purple, my magic wand, click and click, and now I'm going to go ahead and shade that in. Now I have the whole outline there. Let's go back in here. I'm going to click on her actual color there, click OK, and now anywhere that has her real color, so right there, that has her that orange color there, I'm going to go ahead and paint it. And I'm going to fast forward through the rest because you get the idea. So I'll just fast forward through the rest and then bring it to the background. Alright, so now I'm done. Everything is colored in, and you can see it matches the colors perfectly, so I didn't have to guess at anything. I just put it in there. Can you guess? Sure. Alright, now I'm going to delete that layer, layer 2. Just make sure you delete the right one. And here we go. Now it's time for the background. Now I'm going to look in and just try to find a nice background. I see that they have that in there where they're outside in the backyard. That's a great scene, or inside. So now I'm just going to search for kind of like a background that goes with that. Bluey backgrounds. So something like that, if I could get it outside, that would be great. And that just helps me. Oh, perfect. Look at that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to copy the image. Then I'm going to go in and paste that image. Now you'll see that the image will come up this way, and obviously that would look weird. So if you hold off to the corner, you'll see that it turns into a rotation tool there, which is the L. You're going to click and drag. If you hold shift, it locks it. So you can shift it at 90 degrees, which is right about where she is. You can even line up the bottom with her feet just to see. All right, now that's going to be pretty small there. So I'm going to go ahead and blow this up. Just keep dragging. I'll bring it back down and then grab the corner again until you cover over all of the ears. Perfect. All right, now that you did that, I'm going to grab my bottom layer and I'm going to drag and drop it over top, and now you can see where it is. Now click back to layer 2, and now you can move and get the background exactly where you want. You want some flowers behind. That's perfect. The jump rope, you know what? I kind of liked, whoops. Oh, if you do that, just hit Control Z and it will throw it back there and go back to layer 2. All right, so I kind of liked the parrot. Let's see if I can get the parrot in there a little bit. Yes. All right, perfect. Just make sure it's within that black space. All right, that's great. You know what? I might make it a little bigger just so I can get that parrot in there. All right. Perfect. All right. That makes me very excited. Now, I'm going to click off onto layer 1. And I'll show you why. Because now I'm going to grab this magic selection tool, the magic wand tool, going to go over and click outside of the ears. Now it's selected all of the outside, like the gutter of the ears. Now I'm going to click on layer 2, and that, when I hit delete, will delete everything that's in the gutter of those ears. And now you have a completed Bluey thing, or sorry, Bluey Granny's thing using the character Bingo. Now to do it, you can right out of Photoshop hit print. That is definitely what you're going to want to do if your printer is connected. Definitely do it through the transparency, so that way it keeps to the exact size. You don't have to mess with any of the sizing. If not, you can go to save as, and I've had the best luck saving it as, change the format to PDF where it locks it in, and then you will hit save, and then it will save it as a PDF. I'm going to click don't show this again just because I'm tired of seeing it. All right, save PDF. Yeah, once again. And then there you go, it will be saved, and let me bring it up for you to show you what it looks like. There it is. So when you go to print that, it will be, well, I'll go to scale 100, and then it will be the exact size that you need. Okay, so that is how I create a Mickey ear stained glass ear. Thanks for watching.